In the universe's early stages, a substance called illum was thought to be the raw material for everything. From this came baryogenesis, where matter began to outnumber antimatter. This process favored the creation of particles like protons and neutrons, leading to a tiny surplus of matter over antimatter. This small excess is what we see today as stars, planets, and life. The matter we observe is only about 1/1,000,000th of 1% of the original Big Bang material. But this imbalance was crucial for the universe to form as we know it, preventing it from becoming a featureless void, devoid of stars, planets, and life. CERN, near the France-Switzerland border, is famous for high-energy physics and is where the World Wide Web was born. Its main goal is to figure out why the universe has more matter than antimatter, even though the Big Bang should have made equal amounts. From the perspective of an alchemist, the notion of the mirrored quality of matter with its antimatter counterpart is neither new nor strange. This is what 17th century alchemist Michael Sendivogius wrote on the matter, no pun intended.
This natural world is only an image and material copy of a heavenly and spiritual pattern, that the very existence of this world is based upon the reality of its heavenly archetype. Thus the sage sees heaven reflected in nature as in a mirror, and he pursues this art not for the sake of gold or silver, but for the love of the knowledge which it reveals.
The double-slit experiment, first conducted by Thomas Young in 1801, was pivotal in uncovering the dual nature of light. This experiment showed light can act like both a wave and a particle. When light goes through two slits, it makes a wave pattern. But if observed, it acts like particles instead. This remarkable experiment not only highlighted the duality of light, but also showcased how observation itself can influence quantum events, marking a significant milestone in the study of quantum mechanics. Similarly, in the sandbox video game Minecraft, as well as in many other games, players explore and build within a procedurally generated world that renders only as they observe it. A player can only interact with what is rendered in their immediate surroundings, reflecting the interplay between observation and reality. These concepts resonate with simulation theory, which suggests that our reality might be an artificial construct, as proposed by thinkers like Nick Bostrom. If advanced civilizations could simulate consciousness, it's statistically probable that we exist in a simulation rather than in base reality. From the quantum changes in the double-slit experiment to simulation theory, and even to how video games render their worlds, it looks like what we perceive as reality might need to be observed to exist. Could this be similar to the moments right after the Big Bang, where an observer-like mechanism, or perhaps even a divine force of some sort, triggered the conditions necessary for our universe to take shape? Perhaps this divine observer, similar to an alchemist reshaping matter in the lab, influences our reality merely by observing it. This implies a close relationship between consciousness and the physical realm. The connection between observation and the nature of matter echoes the alchemical saying, "As above, so below," leading us to reflect on our own significance in the cosmos. A cosmos that might only exist because we choose to observe it. When you dream, the dream can only exist if you are dreaming it, if you are observing the dream. The dream doesn't happen if you are not there to experience it. But of course, the question remains, when you awake, are you still dreaming? Before diving into the chronological history of alchemy, let's take a moment to understand a key concept: the prima materia. The prima materia, also referred to as materia prima, primal element, first matter, or hyle, is fundamental to alchemical philosophy. Aristotle, a renowned Greek philosopher from ancient Greece who lived 300 years before Christ, is often credited with the concept of the prima materia, which he named hyle. In Aristotle's view, hyle comes into being when form attaches itself to it. The prima materia represents the raw, shapeless foundation of all matter, akin to the concept of chaos. It's closely tied to quintessence, the fifth element in ancient thought, symbolizing a pure essence beyond the basic elements of fire, water, air, and earth. It also relates to ether, an old idea of a celestial substance that was believed to permeate the universe. Every living creature on Earth shares a connection through what's called the world soul, or anima mundi. There's also the spiritus mundi, or world spirit, which is broader, encompassing the whole cosmos. The soul is specific to our world, while the spirit spans the universe. Think of a person. The soul is what we carry with us after death, but the spirit is already out there, ready to embrace the arriving soul. According to the Emerald Tablet, the prima materia is the one thing. It is in everything, formless yet essential. Nothing can exist without it, and from it, everything comes into being. While illum and prima materia are similar in their portrayal of an original, shapeless foundation, they differ in cultural and conceptual contexts. Illum pertains to a cosmological model rooted in scientific discourse, whereas prima materia is cloaked in mysticism and philosophy. If illum is considered the same as prima materia, does it still exist? Physics indicates that it does, since matter is neither created nor destroyed, but only changes form. This aligns with alchemical doctrine, which suggests that the prima materia unites all things, animal and mineral, material and spiritual, microscopic and universal. It is omnipresent and joins everything together. This implies that the remnants of illum, albeit transmuted, continue to be a fundamental component of the universe's fabric, residing in every star, planet, and thus even within the building blocks of life itself. In episode 2, we explored the concept of the secret fire, which is thought to reside within the prima materia. This fire represents the essential force or energy that converts the chaotic potential state of the prima materia into something structured and tangible. Perhaps this is Ilm or Heil. Maybe the reason we can't pinpoint the true nature of either the prima materia or the secret fire is because alchemy could be lacking something, or perhaps science hasn't progressed sufficiently yet. I never promised any answers in this series. My focus is on documenting the fundamentals and history of alchemy. The pursuit of answers is something each individual must undertake on their own. About 2,500 years ago, in Abdera, a city between Greece and Turkey, the Greek philosophers Lysippus and Democritus came up with the atomic theory, which is still vital today. They thought atoms were the smallest pieces of matter, but we've since learned that atoms are made of protons, neutrons and electrons, with quarks and leptons being even smaller fundamental particles of matter. Currently, we do not know if anything can be smaller. In fact, the quark is so small that we are not sure it even has a size. Given that atoms are fundamental to chemistry, it's arguable that without the Greeks' atomic theory, chemistry as we know it wouldn't exist. Thus, chemistry owes more to the discovery of the atom than to any alchemist. But the chemist makes one possible error: failure to appreciate, like the alchemist does, the divinity of whatever gave birth to the quark. Perhaps we will never know what that source was. It is as difficult to see the far distant macrocosmic universe as it is to see into the microcosmic world of quarks. Whatever gave rise to quarks, perhaps something akin to Ilm, the primordial ooze, might well be considered the prima materia. Once form coalesced with this primal substance, quarks were born, setting the stage for the eventual emergence of trees, chairs, or human beings. All matter in essence can be traced back to this prime matter. Should an alchemist succeed in manifesting the prima materia, free from the constraints of the elements and the alchemical trinity of salt, sulfur, and mercury, they would possess the ultimate prize, the stone, known most famously as the philosopher's stone, the holy grail of alchemy. For those more in tune with modern symbolism, here is another kind of explanation. Whatever gave rise to quarks might well be likened to an algorithm, a primordial blueprint orchestrating the very fabric of reality. This fundamental algorithm could be seen as the code from which all else emerges. When this algorithm's patterns took shape, quarks were formed, laying the groundwork for the eventual emergence of trees, chairs, and human beings. All digital constructs at their core can be traced back to this prime algorithmic code. Should the alchemist master the manipulation of this code, unbound by hardware limitations or the confines of traditional programming paradigms, they would unlock the ultimate achievement, the software, heralded as the philosopher's code, the holy grail of alchemy. Maybe in this computer metaphor, the secret fire could be likened to electricity. Frustratingly, the actual material the alchemist uses to begin the great work, the starting matter, is also sometimes called prima materia or first matter. This can cause great confusion when studying alchemical texts. This type of prima materia is the ubiquitous starting material required for the alchemical magnum opus and the creation of the philosopher's stone. In Martin Ruland's 17th century alchemical dictionary, Lexicon Alchemiae, he lists more than 50 different names for the prima materia. Some of the terms seem to refer to the starting matter, while others refer to the source matter, the prima materia. The 17th century alchemist Robert Boyle is also regarded as the first modern chemist and a pioneer of the modern experimental scientific method. In his book, The Skeptic Alchemist, he raised his annoyances at the alchemist's tendency to call different things the same thing and the same thing by different names.
If judicious men, skilled in chemical affairs, shall once agree to write clearly and plainly of them, and thereby keep men from being stunned, as hope that these other men finding that they can no longer write impertinently and absurdly, without being laughed at for doing so, will be reduced either to write nothing, or books that may teach us something, and not rob men, as formerly, of invaluable time, and so, ceasing to trouble the world with riddles or impertinences, we shall either by their books receive an advantage, or by their silence escape an inconvenience.
Legendary 16th century alchemist Paracelsus wrote in the Aurora of the Philosophers,
"The substance which is sought is the same as that from which it has to be drawn forth."
This of course mirrors what the Book of Revelation states.
I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end.
Alchemy might appear complex and enigmatic, yet its true beauty lies in its core simplicity, a profound way to comprehend the universe. Paradoxically, this simplicity often requires years or even decades of dedication and exploration to fully grasp, as its principles gradually reveal themselves through study and introspection. The prima materia is the spirit of the universe, the one thing, and the state to which all matter can be reduced. The starting matter is the matter used to begin the alchemical work. When the alchemist acquires the starting matter, the alchemical transformation can begin. This starting material is used to create the philosopher's stone, which either is or generates the prima materia, the fundamental essence of all matter. M. Pattison Muir, a British chemist and author active in the early 20th century, explains in his book History of Alchemy that the alchemist would, in effect, say that
when a grain of corn falls into the earth, it dies. But this dying is the first step towards a new life. The dead seed is changed into the living plant. So it must be with all other things in nature.
In other words, every substance, according to alchemy, contains the potential to become perfect. It simply has to be drawn out. All metals aim to transform into the most perfect form of metal, which is gold, or at least symbolically gold. One could argue then that if the perfect form can be drawn out of any substance, every substance is already perfect. There is less of a need to transform and more of a need to unveil. M. Pattison Muir continues to write,
There must be a seed in metals, which is their essence. If I can separate the seed and bring it under the proper conditions, I can cause it to grow into the perfect metal.
No one knows exactly what we are made of, or what anything is made of for that matter. But there is a source material, a prima materia that everything is based upon, a divine algorithm, a code. Not even the most ardent atheist knows the answer, and while they might not call it divine, they have to call it a mystery. If the alchemist could manifest the prima materia and awaken the secret fire within it, they would possess the philosopher's stone, granting them control over the fundamental building blocks of matter and energy. This would unlock an extraordinary range of possibilities, such as transmuting elements, facilitating the healing by manipulating matter at a subatomic level, or even creating or annihilating any form of matter at will. But alchemy is not necessarily only a physical pursuit, it is equally spiritual. Thus, if the alchemists could master the prima materia, they could orchestrate a spiritual transformation, reflecting the alchemist's journey toward enlightenment and the unification of the self with the cosmic whole. When it concerns the history of alchemy, who was the first official alchemist? Who was the prima alchemista? Well, it was a woman by the name of Mary, but she was not the first century Jewish woman of Nazareth, the wife of Joseph and the mother of Jesus. That Mary is a central figure of Christianity, venerated under various titles such as Virgin or Queen. In alchemy there is another Mary, equally important to the alchemical tradition as the Virgin Mary is to Christianity. This Mary, or Maria as she is sometimes called, is the topic of the next episode.